the energy of being in a physical space with other humans moving in concert together, the feel of that and the vibration of that and the feeling afterwards of having done all that with your body, your minds, your spirits. Nothing digitally will ever replace that.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Niki Leondakis, CEO of CorePower Yoga. In this episode, we talk about Niki's background in hospitality and the connection to boutique fitness. She shares the company's post-pandemic growth strategy, and we talk about why community is a critical component of successful fitness brands. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by Jack Taylor, our exclusive PR partner. More than just PR, they're creative storytellers and brand builders who actually understand the health and wellness industry. Learn more and get in touch at jacktaylorpr.com. Hi, Niki. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, excited to chat. And there's a lot to cover, especially given your background, CorePower Yoga being a prominent brand that I think a lot of listeners will be familiar with. And so maybe just to kick things off, could you tell us about maybe the state of CorePower Yoga and your background and coming to the CEO role and where things stand today?
I came to CorePower Yoga 3 years ago in January, so just a little over 3 years, just in time to deal with the global pandemic, which was super interesting and challenging. My background includes having been CEO of Equinox Fitness Club. So Equinox was a great launch point for my career in fitness and wellness. My previous career for over 30 years was in hospitality, hotels and restaurants. I don't really see it as a complete pivot as many think it is, because fitness and wellness, what we do is really creating experiences for someone and the human being their best self. And it's a service industry and creating an environment and human interactions that help bring out best self and help fulfill a hope and dream of an experience. And we do that in hospitality as well, whether it's a dining experience or a hotel stay, a vacation, or a celebration of a special occasion. You're creating an experience, and all of the employees come together to serve up the best possible experience. So there are a lot of parallels, but I've had a personal passion for fitness and wellness my whole life. And at a certain point, after over 3 decades in hospitality, I thought how fun to marry my personal passion with my professional career. So that led me here. And I've been a devout yoga practitioner for over 3 decades as well. Started out as a runner my whole life, and started out in yoga thinking it would help my running and make me a better runner, stretching more, etc., like many people do, to help their real athletic passion. And I quickly realized there were far more benefits than just stretching. So now I've married a personal passion with my career and enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, I think that's the piece around hospitality. You said some people from the outside might look at it and say, oh, that fitness is a departure from that. But really, especially in terms of boutique studios or maybe some of the more premium luxury brands, Equinox, right? That hospitality piece is like ingrained in it. That is what, in some sense, differentiates it from just kind of going to a gym down the street. And I think, I'd be curious to hear how you think about integrating that into CorePower Yoga to say like, oh, this is what hospitality means to us in the brand and in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. In my view, the parallels are very similar. You can think about fitness and wellness. There are people's reasons and expectations and needs from their experience. So you have budget hotels, you have budget fitness gyms, right? So based on somebody's financial need, that it serves the basic hotel room for a budget hotel. I need a place to sleep. It just needs to be clean. It's functional. It's transactional. There's not a lot of expectation, but it certainly is helpful if the humans you interact with checking in or cleaning the room are nice and care. right? So in the same thing, if you go to a gym that's, a basic gym, but it provides all the equipment and, the person at the desk, when you check in, or the people cleaning it up or working there are pleasant. So that's kind of like baseline hospitality, but there's a parallel, right? Then you get into mid-tier and luxury tier, where the service expectation, the finishes, the equipment, the environment, the ambiance, all of it comes together to create a whole experience that fulfills a lot more than just the functional need. And also, I think there's a really interesting parallel with what's been happening in boutique fitness over the last, say, decade, with the growth of boutique fitness studios and specialized types of workouts or practices, training, etc., and big, what I'll call like big box gyms or big box clubs, a 3,000 more or less square foot space versus a 35,000 more or less, or even 75,000 if you get into like the lifetimes, of the world, like a whole club and, more like an old fashioned country club kind of thing. So this boutique fitness parallel to me is very similar to what happened in the hotel industry 30 years ago, which was between Ian Schrager and Bill Kimpton on two different coasts, creating these small niche targeted hotels with specific experiences, design driven, very small and intimate, high degrees of focus on what is the consumer looking for from an experience, whether it's a nightclub or a dining or service experience. And certainly the ambiance and the decor of the place played a factor. Now you look at boutique fitness, and what happened in hotels was those little boutique hotels started pulling people away from a generic, more vanilla experience. And so the big hotels had to start looking at design and how important that is to the experience, and having a great restaurant and not just a 3-meal functional, meal service. It's the same thing in fitness clubs, the big box clubs that had all of the same, a treadmill's a treadmill. At the end of the day, it's what's wrapping around it in terms of the ambiance and the experience. And then all of a sudden you have these boutique studios that have a very specialized and targeted experience, that have a particular type of ambiance and a particular type of targeted workout that started pulling people away. And one, I think, common thread is like-minded people gathering together in this niche experience around a community of people that are similar to me or that I aspire to be part of, right? And so when you think about CorePower Yoga or Barry's Bootcamp or Solid Core, or any of, even Orange Theory, like any of these like smaller studio experiences, I see a very strong parallel in how they at their onset kind of start disrupting an industry and challenging people to think differently about a generic experience. One size fits all.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and very concise kind of explanation. Maybe over the last decade or so of the fitness industry, is these trends emerge and there's the shift towards the experience, the amenities, the specialization that comes with that. And of course, I kind of want to get to these pieces as well, that being disrupted again with a global pandemic that you alluded to kind of at the start of your tenure. But just given that shift, and CorePower being a brand that is synonymous with yoga, but also bringing and expanding those studios across the US, especially at a time where, early on, I think it was like CorePower and Lululemon were like the things that like, oh, this is yoga. This is what's kind of coming of the industry. How do you think about all these, the amenities, the specialization, the experience as it relates to some of those other studios that you mentioned that, there is it the case that consumers, will go to a bunch of different studios for these, a high intensity experience, a Pilates experience, a yoga experience, and you're kind of continuing to define that lane of like what yoga is, or how do you just think about those aspects of hospitality specialization as the industry continues to evolve?
Yeah. Well, yes, we are specialized on the one hand. On the other hand, what people really don't know is that they think of yoga as stretching and that you are augmenting your workout routine, whether you're a bodybuilder, a runner, you do some combination of cardio and strength building, and then you do your stretching as an augment and a support to your fitness experience. What people don't realize is CorePower Yoga offers all of that inside of it, and that the founder, Trevor Trice, over 20 years ago, had this vision of making yoga, one, accessible to all by taking away the things that cause people to think, that's a little too woo-woo. It's not for me. I don't bend. I can't look like a pretzel. Or, I really don't want to go a place that has beaded curtains and incense. That's not what I'm looking for. He made it very approachable and accessible and efficient by combining a physical workout with mindfulness. And it's the intensity of the physical workout and that mindfulness that gives us kind of this unique position in boutique fitness that marries the two. And I think he was way ahead of his time, before his time, with this vision of this intense physical workout with this mindfulness, because the physical is the entry point to overall holistic wellness. We start with the body, then we reach the mind, the spirit, the soul, with overall wellness and balance and peace. So I think of us as extremely specialized, but also not what a lot of people think as an augment to your fitness or wellness regime. It's pretty holistic.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And that also kind of mirrors broader trends in just how consumers, fitness seekers are thinking about wellness, performance, mental health, all these things now becoming part of the same conversation, in yoga incorporating so much of that. Part of the kind of boutique fitness boom, if we want to call it that, in like the mid 2000s, it was in part like a different modalities launching and scaling, and also somewhat of a land grab, right? Like, how many studios can we put in certain tiers of cities? And is it just kind of isolated to the coasts? Are we going and taking it kind of across the US and now globally, of course? How does that kind of approach or business model map to today, where there was, and maybe this is where the conversation about the pandemic becomes central to it, but kind of this, hey, do we have too many studios? Should a portion of this business be digital? How are we thinking about engaging members outside of the studio? So I guess the more direct question is, how are you thinking about the business model now in terms of X number of locations, scaling, digital, and all the pieces that go into that?
The background on the digital side is, CorePower, when I arrived in January 2020, had a very well-developed library of on-demand videos that really hadn't strategically been brought into the overall business strategy yet. It was sort of something that was being discussed, but it hadn't landed yet. There'd been a lot of great work and forethought building up that library of videos. And I arrived and we were landing on, okay, this is how we're thinking about it. How much will people do at home? How much will people, et cetera. But the pandemic forced our hand pretty quickly. So, we shut down all of our studios March 16th, 2020. And in April 2020, we launched live streaming digitally, yoga classes. And then very quickly thereafter, we packaged up live streaming and on demand as an at-home membership, because people couldn't go to studio. We were shut down during COVID. So it forced our hand. We pivoted quickly. We got it done, duct tape and, and wire, we just, put together as quickly as we could from a technological standpoint at our scale, this at-home membership and this live streaming and on demand. And it served the need. And then quickly we worked on enhancing the technology and integrating our platforms and making it more user-friendly. And I think during COVID, we all in the industry, oh my God, that now people have bought their equipment or set up their home studios or their home workout place, and will we ever get them back? And it's a legitimate fear when people change their habits, which they did. They built out an at-home space, whatever it was, and they discovered the great outdoors, right? Walking, hiking, pickleball. All of a sudden, people are like, wow, nature. And that wasn't just the coasts, right? This was globally. So then okay, we're going to come out the predictions, right? We all had our crystal balls out and we're predicting what's going to happen after COVID. Hybrid is the way to go. And I do think that is true. And it is part of our business strategy as we go forward. The next step we took was integrating the at-home membership into our membership model to create a new level of membership called All Access. So a membership that gave you the digital offerings as well as all studios everywhere. That's what your All Access members gives you. As time goes on, I learned this when I walked in the doors at CorePower Yoga very quickly. I went on a listening tour with students, employees, every stakeholder. As soon as the pandemic hit, I did them on Zoom, and I've been on a listening tour for 3 years. The thing that I picked up in probably 30 days that was the common theme, no matter who you talk to, employees and students alike, was that the sense of community and belonging was integral to their reason for being with us. Yes, it's a great workout. Yes, mindfulness, meets physical, all these unique aspects of our value proposition, but community came up in every conversation, the community. So we tried to create that with live streaming the best way we could. And that's the difference between live streaming and it's in real time and you're connected versus a video. However, nothing replaces the energy of being in a physical space with other humans moving in concert together. The feel of that and the vibration of that and the feeling afterwards of having done all that with your body, your minds, your spirits together with others, even when they're complete strangers, nothing digitally will ever replace that. So I don't think we're in danger of people moving away from in studio. I think they have discovered how to augment their workout or their practice with at home. But there will always be, it is a basic human need to feel a sense of belonging, right? Right after Maslow's hierarchy of needs, after, air, food, water, shelter, is the need to belong. And our studios, clubs, our industry, we create that for people. And I think, in my personal view, the boutique environment is that intimacy, just like hotels, it enables that connection more easily. It's easy to go into a huge space with tens of thousands of square feet of space and equipment and be that lone wolf and kind of go do your thing. You could go to group fitness and be part of that community, but in an intimate environment like a boutique studio, there's nothing like it when you're moving together and sweating together and are so connected.
Hey everyone, we'll get you back to the show in just a second. But first, I wanted to tell you about our exclusive PR partner, Jack Taylor. Honestly, this one's a no-brainer. We've known the Jack Taylor team for years. They work with some of the most innovative health and wellness companies. We're talking Whoop, Athletic Greens, Hyperice, and many more. Jack Taylor has an extensive industry network, knows how to work with high-growth companies, and really invests in building long-term relationships. I know this firsthand because they're Fitt Insider's PR agency, so I can confidently recommend them, and I do all the time. From startups to more established brands, they go beyond pushing product to help companies truly thrive. If you want to learn more, head to jacktaylorpr.com and tell them Fitt Insider sent you. Now, back to the show. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to explain. It's hard to replicate. And I think there's a sense, especially, I grew up playing team sports, and it's the same kind of explanation. It's like for somebody who hasn't played, it's like I can't explain what it's like to be in a locker room, with my teammates. I can't explain what it's like to celebrate a victory or defeat, whatever that might be. And the same thing when I got into the fitness industry, initially working one-on-one with people and then in group classes and then running gyms. Like, it's hard to explain what that is, but I knew, and people in the industry know, right, that that's why people are showing up. Like, they're showing up for this thing that's happening here. And then, during the pandemic, we had, again, like you said, everybody predictions and crystal balls and, gyms are dead. No, they'll be back, and all these various explanations. But we kind of got to see it play out in real time that, in fact, when people could go back, they did go back. And I don't know what the exact percentages are. And I don't, I'm sure there's some people who, like myself, I prefer to work out at home, but, still participate in various activities. Getting to a place now where we kind of say, we don't know exactly, but here it is. And here's kind of the proof that people have come back for this community aspect, so much so that there's been papers and studies written comparing it to religious experiences and how this being the new kind of how people come together and socialize and build relationships and all those sorts of things. With that, some of the conversations I've had, talk to Joey Gonzalez from Barry's and lots of other folks in the boutique fitness space. And it was interesting to hear them talk about some different perspectives, and I think Joey said this was like, look, you can't do Barry's online. You can't do it at home. We have a digital platform. We invested very heavily in it, but like, that is not what we offer in the studios. And some other folks have said the similar sentiment. Do you come down in that same place where it's like, yes, we will have this, we will offer it. Maybe people will use it. It's a great way to extend our service, but like, we're not trying to in concert build a digital platform that's 50-50 or whatever with our in-studio experience.
No, yes, I concur exactly with those sentiments, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's just not the same. The unique experience at CorePower Yoga, the heat, the music, the instructor giving you, specific direction, and now thanks to, COVID, moving out of COVID, back to hands-on adjustments and physical assists. Nothing replaces that. And that indescribable feeling that you talked about, when we come together in a space and we share this experience, it's transformative to the human spirit. We connect on a level that we can't describe. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's soulful. We are together sweating it out. We're going through hardship because we push our bodies. We find our edge, and then we ease into the relaxation at, just before the edge. We're doing that together. We're connecting. And that is all metaphors. Those experiences are all metaphors for life. And we have that shared experience and that transformation that occurs with us in a 60-minute class. We call it the glow. At the end of a class, you can see the glow, that people just have this different feeling. Their body language has changed. Their faces have changed. We learn to relax our jaw. We learn when we're at our edge to drop our shoulders down our back. It's exactly what we go through in life, and we share that. And that's just, again, back to basic human needs. There's nothing like being with your army, your comrades, your teammates, your collective fellow students in a classroom, and sweating it out and pushing your bodies and going through that together, and then accomplishing it and the feeling at the end of it. It's a very deep connection to a part of ourselves that we share when we do this that goes so much further than a simple physical workout. And I don't think that will ever go away, the need and desire for that. Based on what I hear from our students, we are, private equity backed. So we do consumer research constantly to understand our students and where their attitudes, behaviors, and habits are. So to answer your earlier question about growth strategy, long ago, years and years ago, again, my predecessors built out this platform. It started in Colorado. It didn't start on the coasts. And the middle of the country got populated with CorePower studios. Our geographic distribution is not coastal. It's across the US. We had pre-COVID had equal success in urban, hyper-urban, and suburban markets. So very suburban markets. So our geographic expansion strategy today, yes, to punctuate the digital, we will have it as an offering for those that need it. And there are those that can't be in a classroom, either geographically or physically, health-wise. So it does serve that need. But the core of this business, the heart and soul of this business, the driver, the engine of this business is the in-studio experience that can't be replicated. We will continue to expand across the US and ultimately internationally. We haven't gone international because there's so much white space for us in the US because of the transportability of the practice we offer. It's equally successful. The impact COVID has had on that geographic expansion is places that were dependent on a home to work commute aren't in our short run strategy any longer. That until that shakes out and we understand the future of hybrid work, remote work, business districts, the historic business district, we will wait and see what happens there. So the short term strategy is where we know people will be, and that will be probably more suburban, residential, or the combined urban. We've had enormous success in New York City and continue to, where we're continuing to see that success, we will continue to expand. But for now, at least in the short term, we have a lot of space within the US that will continue to expand.
To that point, with the obviously COVID putting everything on hold, figuring out, hey, how do we just kind of continue to serve members, make sure the business is in the best spot that it can be. Now, continuing to listen to members, seeing where is their foot traffic? Where are people commuting? Are they commuting at all, to your point? Was it, or to what extent did it have to close studios, put those expansions on hold? Are you to the place now where you're kind of comfortable saying we are now actively opening studios, or is it still kind of a wait and see how, both consumer sentiment, but also broader economic factors at this point play out to get us in a place where we feel comfortable kind of getting back into that mode?
Yeah. Well, like everybody else in 2020, we all didn't know what the heck was happening. So we put a pause on, we had opened 2 studios and had 23 more planned for opening in 2020, and just hit the pause button because we don't know what's going on with this COVID thing. But once we reopened studios and saw that we were emerging from COVID and there would be an end to this. I mean, in some ways, we would end up living with COVID to some degree, but there'd be an end to the crisis. We picked up our expansion. We had a lot of leases that had been committed to. We picked up in 2022, last year, opening studios again. We've opened 8 studios, and we're now planning for growth again. And a year ago, we hired a head of real estate to develop that strategic plan and work with us on seeking new sites. We've done the work to develop new prototype studios for the future, what those will look like. And we still have, openings happening, but we're back to sourcing sites and planning for the future growth. We have a strong belief that this has incredible legs into the future and incredible legs in the same types of markets we had pre-COVID. We're just not immediately going into those business districts till we understand what's going to happen to those business districts. Those are going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, maybe a couple more questions before we wrap up. One of them that has always been of interest to me in a previous life One of the gyms we owned was a CrossFit gym. Part of what CrossFit does is they sell instructor trainings and education, and they build basically a whole funnel, right, of people who were getting trained, then opening studios, and then that kind of accelerated their business. Some other, fitness brands do this. CorePower Yoga has an instructor training. What role, how big of a aspect of the business is the instructor training, both from like a focus and revenue in terms of, hey, this is how we get instructors in, this is how we grow the business, this is how we build the brand, and how do you think about that kind of going forward?
We believe in learning and development. It's the right thing to do. I've always believed in it, no matter what industry. If you're a growth industry, you have to develop people to grow with you, right? So teacher training, learning and development is a critical part of our model. It feeds the future pipeline of teachers to support our expansion. A. B, yoga is a lifestyle. It's a journey, and it's a journey of self-study. It's a journey of a practice, and we also include the physical journey as well. Our students are continuously looking for what's next, what's next, what's next. So the learning and development is for our employees to fill that pipeline, but also to keep our students growing and learning. So we have developed a lot in the last 3 years in terms of learning and development opportunities. So teacher training, yes, we built out our teacher training. We expanded upon the way we handle teacher training. COVID, again, forced our hand to go digital. During that time when we couldn't be in studio, we took the good and left the bad. Now we have a hybrid model that creates some efficiency for our students who, they have full-time jobs. There's only so much time, unlike coaches who, teach some of the other formats outside of yoga. It's a much shorter training period, but 200 hours to become a yoga teacher, a Yoga Alliance certified yoga teacher, which our teacher training does, is a very big time commitment if you're, working and doing something else. So we've created intensives for people who just want to expand their practice, like 50-hour intensives. We have 50-hour intensives for coaches that we've launched to teach our yoga sculpt class, which is a hybrid of yoga and a weight sculpting practice. We have, in addition to creating a hybrid model that's more efficient for our students' learning journey for yoga certification, yoga teaching certification, in 2021, we launched a 300-hour program, which is the next level. It's kind of like the master's degree, if you will. So that is now part of our offering for students who want to buy that offering and go through it with CorePower Yoga. It's free for our employees. Again, we want them to continue to learn and grow. And we've also launched learning and development for studio managers to grow their skills. I think it's our duty and our responsibility as business leaders to grow and develop people. We hope that our students, our employees, our managers stay with us for their whole life. But in reality, we know they may not. But we can feel good about the time they spend with us. They enriched their knowledge, their skill, their habits, and we helped prepare them for their life journey. So our managers have manager training, leadership development, and we're continuing to build on that. CorePower University was launched in 2021, and we have a very grand vision for what that becomes. We're the largest yoga company in the world and feel a duty and a responsibility to be also a learning and development organization for everyone involved.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of ground that we covered today, from, the pandemic to digital, now figuring out what the growth strategy looks like and where that goes in terms of opening new studios. I think more recently I saw the launch of the kind of strength plus core power class, which was a new offering. If there's anything kind of top of mind that we should look out for, so that was the kind of latest offering. What should we have top of mind or look out for as you continue to now, hopefully, right, we all as an industry get back in gear post COVID and figure out like what the roadmap looks like?
Yeah, I mean, from CorePower Yoga, and thanks for bringing that up, our Strength X new format is still in the process of being rolled out. But I think that is representative of what CorePower is all about, that people don't realize. They just think yoga, and people have stereotypes of yoga in their head about beaded curtains, incense, smelly carpets, and people who can fold up like pretzels, and that's not for me. The Strength X, I think, is really symbolic. It's the newest class format offering from CorePower Yoga, and the first one that we have offered new in 10 years. So it's a big deal to us. It's representative of what we have been trying to do in a holistic way for the last several years. And that is ensure that people know that everyone is welcome here. This is not an exclusionary practice for just certain people and a very niche type of person or individual. It is for all. And strength building is not just physical, it's internal, it's mental, it's emotional. And that we surveyed our students and asked them, what would enhance the value of membership for you? Mm-hmm. And there was a tie for the top two things that they said to us. And one of them was an additional class format that was strength building. Mm-hmm. And strength building for us represented from Yoga Sculpt, what's next? That's a more high intensity, lighter weight, high rep type of hybrid yoga and strength class. Strength X is heavy weights, lower reps. And we specifically engaged an outside partner who has a very strong background in performance training, as well as over 1,000 hours of teacher training, yoga teacher training credentials, who really represented that crossroad where we are, where the physical meets mindful. And we developed this class hoping that more people who identify as men would be attracted, because yoga, the stereotype is like skinny white women. We've been trying to break that stereotype and change yoga, the face of yoga, and who practices yoga and who teaches yoga for the last several years. And this is one of those steps we've taken to bring in more gender balance, to offer that strength training, but it's blended with mindfulness. It's still got those elements of yoga that, mindful meets strength. And it's part of an overall strategy that we launched a few years ago around our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts to diversify both who practices yoga and who teaches yoga. So all kinds of backgrounds. We're welcoming all kinds of people. We launched a BIPOC scholarship program 3 years ago. We're bringing in people who typically said, that's not for me, and helping them see that it's for all people everywhere. It's a physical practice. It's a fantastic workout. And the mindfulness is something we all need. And the COVID pandemic certainly gave us a lot of awareness of all the mental health issues that people have, and how mindfulness and self-care, finding peace, is critical to our overall health. So stay tuned for more on that. But that's what you can expect from CorePower in the future, is this holistic approach, a continuation of diversifying our students and teachers.
Yeah, continuing to increase access and in some ways kind of reimagine yoga, or what the perception of yoga has been going forward. And yeah, I appreciate you making some time to share that with us today. I think it was a fantastic conversation. For folks that want to learn more, we'll have all the links. Check out a studio, follow social medias down below in the show notes. So Niki, thanks so much for making time today.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed the conversation, Joe.
One more thing before you head out. Help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fitt Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.